Okay, so one other thing I need to show you. This is the horizontal guide that will guide the router, and you basically will lock your router into this frame. Let me just put this one down. So here we have two Teflon guides, and they will ride in this groove on the side of the jig. So you just slide this in here, and it's very smooth movement. Now, in order to use this whole thing, you have to basically lock in your router and this specialized, say, router plate, which comes with the kit, the Ligna tool kit. You have to lock it in here. Just be aware, don't make the mistake that I did. I was under the impression that this router has two buttons, one red one here, and the trigger. Okay, I was always under the impression that in order to activate the trigger, you had to push this red button. That's not actually the case. As you can see here, let's see, this is plugged in. So as you can see here, if I push this trigger button, it will start running. So what happens is, this red button is that once it's running, you push the button at the same time and it will keep this locked in the on position to keep it running. I'll demonstrate. Now, it comes in handy, and it's actually a bad thing as well for the application that we're going to use, because you have to lock in the router. You have to turn it into this jig. So you lift this up, you put the router bit in, and then you have to lock it in. And then this router bit will just ride along side to side and up and down, and then you guide it with a guide bearing along the jig. It is very easy to just hit that trigger by mistake. And if you're not fully seated, that router bit will start running and the blades will hit the jig and basically disintegrate. Ask me how I know that. Yeah, exactly. I had to buy a whole set of new blades. So, now that we have this locked in, let me bring it a bit closer. Now that we have this all locked in, what we're going to start doing, what we're going to do is we're going to start on the left hand side, and we're just going to make a little cut down about half the width of the router bit. This is just to prevent the tear out when we come out from the other side. After that, do not plunge all the way down on the left hand side. Bring it out, go to the right, and then go clockwise, and do your cut clockwise. Okay, so I'm gonna do this now. So I'm gonna have to put a protective shield on as well, because that sawdust is gonna go everywhere. So come over to the left. Sorry, I stopped this whole thing because I realized that these bolts are in the way and you can't see anything. So let me just give you a better view angle here. Go nice and slow. Okay, so this was my first cut. Let's say this was the roughing one. What I do is I take some compressed air, lift the router out of the way, and just blow out the jig. And I'll show you why. Usually, you're going to do this on green lumber. And green lumber is going to be full of resins and whatnot. I don't know if you can see this here. There. See all this residue that builds up between the guide bearing and the jig? So just wipe that off, the majority at least. Wipe that off and just have a quick look at your guide bearing if there is any residue on that. This one looks pretty good. Okay. Just put you down again. Okay, now we're gonna just go in and clean up one more time. Okay, that's it. Take the cover off, lift the router out with your left hand. Don't hold the trigger end of the router, okay? And carefully lift it out so not to nick the blades as you pull it out and maybe hit the aluminum rail. Okay. Put the router aside. Get this out. Then you can remove the screws. And that's your dovetail done. Okay, so just get this out of the way. Now, you've seen earlier on that we have two different sizes of basically dovetail mortises here. There is this wide one and there is a thinner one. The thinner one for the 2x6s do require a different template. You can see this one here is a lot narrower than the other one I was just using, which is this one here. You can see the difference. Basically with these two, you can use pretty much anything really. You can use up to a 10x10 with the big one and 2x material with the thinner one that we have over here. In order to swap them out, actually the next thing I need to do is the tenons, dovetail tenons on the other side, so I do need to get the other jig. 1 second. Okay, so let's put these ones away. Bring this one over here. And this is your tenoning, dovetail tenoning jig. So, in order to swap them out, you basically just loosen these ones here, slide this end stop out to the end, onto the new jig. There you go. And let's put this one aside because we're not going to use this until the next beam that we're going to cut. So these beams, the depth of the, wait, let me bring you around to a better viewing angle. There we go. So basically the depth of the mortise and the tenons should be at least 3/4 of your full material. So as a 2x6, I've decided on 5 inches. So what I need to do is I need to set 5 inches on the scale over here. So what I do, let me put you down again so you can see this. Oh, fiddling around with these camera stands. There you go. So set the mark here on 5 inches. So I set my square here at 5 inches. Then I just butt up the jig, sorry, the end stop, and tighten that down. Now I know I'm at 5 inches, and if I line this up correctly, I'm always going to be at 5 inches, and all of them are going to fit nice on there. So in order to do this next part, I'm going to have to flip the beam around one more time. Otherwise I'm going to have to move all of the tools down the other end. Okay, so I just flipped it around and I just put a clamp on the sawhorses so this doesn't move much. As you can see, I've already marked the center line of the beam here on this beam. Just put it down again, and we're going to cut the dovetail. So for that, you take the jig. If you want, you can extend the center line onto this face of the beam to line up, but I found that if you line it up here on the 0 point, everything stays pretty much nice and straight. So we line this up here, and again we just drive a screw in there. And we drive a screw into the front here. Actually, this one should be a longer screw because it's going into end grain. Okay, again, nice and sturdy. This ain't going anywhere. And we take our guide, slot it down. We make sure that the faces that the guide bushing is going to ride on is nice and clean. Oh, there's a lot of gunk there. Okay. Again, don't hold when you put your router into the jig, don't hold it on that end. Hold it down here if you have to. Stay clear of that red trigger button. Place it in, turn the lock in the router, and on this one here, we're now going to start on the right hand side. We're going to start on the outer of the beam and work our way towards the center. Okay, so trying to shave off as little as possible at a time. Again, let me stop it and move the camera so you get a better view of what's happening. There you go. I think that should give you a good view of what's going to happen here. Okay, so I've done my first pass. I'll just blow out the majority of the chips out of the jig to make sure, and just check the surface of the jig if there is any buildup. So there's nothing there. The guide roller looks okay, so we're going to go in and do one more final pass. Okay, take the cover off. Remove the router. Vertical guide off. Screws off. Jig out of the way. And I can see here perfectly cut dovetail tenant, and this is going to slot in really nicely on the opposite side that we're going to be using. Okay, so I'm just going to put the camera away now and continue working on this, and when I do have something interesting to show you, I'll turn the camera back on, because right now I'm going to have to cut the next beam down to length. It's going to be the same length as this one, and I'll do that, and then I'll turn the camera back on when it comes down to marking everything, to show you how that is done. All right, see you in a bit.